Belfrage Show. It's great to have you along this morning. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Mine went really, really fast. So here we are again, back at it again this morning. Among the big stories, the president is warning that the next president might be able to appoint 2 Supreme Court justices, the president said, and he's making quite a big issue of it. And then the president had Barack Obama had to lead the president off stage. He had another one of those moments where he just stands still, motionless for 5 seconds or better, and then somebody has to kind of pull him off stage. So that happened. Donald Trump says that Democrats are lying about Milwaukee, that he said it was a horrible city. He's saying no such thing. Also, Donald Trump is encouraging voters to write on their receipts, no tax on tips. Vote for Trump, no tax on tips. And spread the message that way. Also, there is a new straw poll out, and over the weekend, who will Donald Trump's running mate be? There are a number of people out there with different ideas. Also, this is an incredible story. It's a young man who's a middle school student who was expelled for a speech that he wanted to give regarding patriotism. And I'll have more on that. Sioux Falls is setting a high for speeding tickets, a record high. And some of it, extreme speeds, is what we're seeing in Sioux Falls. Racing and so on. It's very, very concerning. We got some polls out statewide from South Dakota News Watch and more. So those are among some of the big stories. I'll start hitting those in a little bit more detail coming up for you here in just a few moments. Great to have you along this morning. And I hope you'll share this with friends. If you don't know, if you're not aware of the Greg Belfrage Show, I'm a conservative Republican in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And glad you're here. I've been hosting this morning show now for going on 20 years, getting close to 20 years that I've been the host of the morning show on KELO in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And it's really great to have you along. I very much appreciate it. Thanks for giving us a chance. All right, let me get my thoughts here and we'll get things rolling in just a few moments.
Coordinator for the South Dakota Bureau of Human Resources and Administration. She says the current roof is over 45 years old.
The last time it was replaced was 47 years ago in 1977. So
I can never get this microphone right where I want it.
The project is expected to be completed in November. It's a big award for a
I don't know if
program.
that's just
The
habit
laboratory
or
science
if it's
program at South Dakota State University has received a $750,000 award from the Association of Public Health Laboratories to promote the medical laboratory professions in South Dakota. In addition to new equipment and technology, the funds will also be used to improve recruiting and grow programs within the department through increased scholarship support. Lab tests inform approximately 2/3 of all medical decisions made by physicians. And a furniture store in a Sioux Falls suburb may need to have a scratch and dent sale after a car crashed into the building. The crash happened Saturday afternoon at Down Home by DeBoers and T. The building had some structural damage. No word yet on what caused the crash. The store is scheduled to have its grand opening next month. From the KELO.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. KELO News Talk 1320 107.9.
Weather brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Scattered showers and
make sure we've got all the right buttons pressed here. Folks come in over the weekend and they change our settings, so just want to make sure everything's good to go.
Overnight, partly cloudy skies. Our low temperature at 71. Stronger south wind. Tomorrow, showers and storms again possible, mainly in the afternoon. High 83. From the Storm Center at KELOLAND TV, I'm Brian Carstens. The Sioux Empire's most trusted
right.
in news. KELO News Talk 1320 107.9 and KELO.com. The Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
The Biden administration has a fatal attraction to nutty ideas.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense, no prescription required.
I love the show.
I don't hate going to work anymore.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
This is the
Good morning, my friend. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. It's really great to have you along. Among the big stories this morning, the president saying that whoever is president for the next 4 years might have the opportunity to appoint 2 Supreme Court justices. He was at a fundraiser over the weekend in Los Angeles, and Barack Obama was also there. More on that in just a moment. But the president said the next president is likely to have two new Supreme Court nominees, 2 more. He's already, and then he was talking about Trump. He said he's already appointed 2 that have been very negative in terms of rights of individuals. And then he took aim at Justice Samuel Alito. It's a fake controversy. It's phony controversy. The left is stirring up all these controversies. Alito and this flag issue. It's the biggest who cares I've ever heard. I mean, are you kidding me? This is the biggest who cares issue. And the Democrats are just doing everything they can to try to tear down our institutions, tear down the Supreme Court. And so Biden says the idea that if Trump is reelected, he can appoint 2 more. Flying flags upside down. That's a reference to Alito. And again, it's not Alito who's flying the flag upside down. It's his wife. And he said the prospect of more Trump-appointed justices was one of the scariest parts of the administration. So the president saying that if he were to win re-election, possibility there that he might be able to appoint 2 more Supreme Court justices. And I don't know about you, that thought keeps me awake at night. I mean, seriously, if the thought of that doesn't make you incredibly nervous about what's going on. So now at the end of this was Saturday night, and the president, when he was done, he just stood still, staring at the crowd. He's done this and recently, where he just kind of seems to be. Wasn't it last week? Yeah, he was at the Juneteenth event, which occurred prior to the actual Juneteenth celebrations. White House had a Juneteenth celebration, and he just kind of zoned out there for a little while till somebody reached out, touched him, and brought him back into what was going on. Well, he did it again on Saturday, and this time it was Barack Obama who took the president by the wrist and led him off stage. Now, the legacy media is not going to be sharing that story with you, but that's a part of what happened. So what they're concentrating on are his comments about the U.S. Supreme Court and so on. And this was, I think, he'd done an interview with Jimmy Kimmel then. This was at the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles. And so the president waved to the crowd and then stood still. Same thing we saw last time, more than 5 seconds. Stood still. And it wasn't until Barack Obama took his wrist, patted him on the back, led him away. And he wants to be president for 4 more years. Just incredible. So that was over the weekend. Also, Donald Trump says that Democrats have been making a lot about Donald Trump, saying Milwaukee was a horrible city. And Trump says, I put out a truth just now because I heard the Democrats lie. He told Newsmax. Now, that's all they can do. They have bad policies, open borders, bad military, the whole thing. Everything they do is bad. He said they lie and they make up a story that I said something bad about Milwaukee. And I just ask you this, who would do that? Who would say something bad about a place that you want to win? You want to win over. The only thing I say is, I want to keep this election nice and honest. And if we do that, I'm going to be very happy, Trump said. But I love Milwaukee, and that's why I picked it. So this was Trump also. There was a roundtable then on Saturday in Milwaukee, a black church roundtable. And Trump had posted on True Social just prior to that, calling out the fake news. And Trump on True Social said the Democrats are making up stories that I said Milwaukee is a horrible city. That's among the least of the fake news and stories that are being made up these days. And so then Trump spent the day trying to appeal to black voters, young voters, union voters, and of course, Michigan being a battleground state. And Trump said of all of this is a complete lie. Just like the laptop from hell was a lie, Russia was a lie, and so much more. It's called disinformation, and that's all they know how to do. I picked Milwaukee. I know it well. It should therefore lead to my winning Wisconsin, he said. But in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, excuse me, I think I misspoke. Trump said, but the Democrats come out with this fake story, just like all the others. It never ends. Don't be duped. Who would say such a thing with that important state in the balance? Vote for Trump, Wisconsin. I will not let you down, he says to Wisconsin. So Trump says Democrats are just flailing. And he said of this, the whole thing is ridiculous about Trump and, and Milwaukee and the because there are a number of billboards that are up and Trump said of the Democrats, they have no policy. All they do is lie. They make up stories. That's a totally made up story. What else is new? What else is new? We have gotten to a point where the lies are just so thick. I've never seen anything like it. All outside of, well, I shouldn't say outside of politics, but outside of that story, and Trump's rally that he held, again, spoke with a black pastor who had endorsed Trump and shared the stage with the two of them shared the stage together. One of the other stories that really has caught my interest is that Trump is encouraging voters to write on their receipts, vote for Trump because there's no tax on tips. We talked about this last week, that Donald Trump has increasingly been talking about not taxing tips. Now we're talking about, those for servers and folks that are doing, I appreciate the job that they do. And so Trump is saying that he would like to eliminate the federal tax on tips and instead then look at tariffs. That's how we would replace the revenue. So it's not just a matter of saying cut, and we have no plan for actually getting more revenue. Trump has said, well, let's use tariffs on some of these foreign countries and these foreign goods that are coming into the country. And so Trump is saying And he's telling everybody, this was at a rally, that you should write on your receipt, vote for Trump because there's no tax on tips. And he said this during his rally in Palm Beach. This is what we talked about last week. Trump said, it's done. We need to spread the word so that every time you leave a tip for the next 5 months, you put on the receipt, vote for Trump because there's no tax on tips. And then on X, people are doing this, and they're in some of the stories that I've saw, got photos of the some of these, and we'll talk more about this later this morning. I've got a bunch of stories here, but there's a piece at the Daily Dot on this, and one of the sub-headlines: conservatives hijack meal receipts to push servers to vote for Trump. Oh yeah, we're pushing them. We're pushing them, ladies and gentlemen. We're hijacking meal receipts by writing no tax on tips, vote for Trump. Yeah, that's hijacking a meal receipt. I've got news for you. I hijack a meal receipt every time I go up, and every time I eat out. I'm writing thank you to the server. I'm always writing things on my receipt. You know, I say, really appreciate the great service, thank you. So I think, and there are a number of us who do that. So hijacking meal receipt, conservatives hijacking meal receipts. Oh man, the lunacy of people in the media. It's just absolutely incredible. So Trump is saying, vote for Trump because there's no tax on tips, and write that on your receipt. Whether you do that or not, that's up to you. I'm just sharing that with you. Also, there is, but don't be surprised if you see that in my handwriting. All right. Who is Donald Trump's vice presidential running mate going to be? There are a lot of names that are out there. There was a straw poll yesterday at Turning Point. Turning Point did this was the Turning Point Actions, the People's Convention in Detroit this weekend. J.D. Vance came away with the most votes. So among the top picks, Vance led with 43%, followed by Senator Tim Scott. He was the second highest choice. Senator Marco Rubio and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum were virtually tied for third. Rubio got 7.7% and Burgum 7%. So that's a virtual tie. So J.D. Vance winning the Turning Point straw poll yesterday. I also saw a piece this morning at Fox News. And I think I'm going to share that later this morning in case you missed it. Mr. Wonderful is making his vice presidential pick. Did you see this? There's a piece this morning at foxnews.com, I think. And he is choosing Burgum. Burgum also. So there's a lot of support for Doug Burgum. This is a story involving a middle school student who is facing consequences that many believe are extreme. And this was a student who had written a speech for student office, and he was talking about his patriotism in his speech. And in the speech, he said he'd make the school great again. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? So the school says that the family has orchestrated a smear campaign against the school's principal. By the way, she's gone. But the student winds up being expelled. And in fact, not only he, but his, I think, two sisters have been told, yeah, you're not welcome back here next year. You're not welcome back here. And then after this, apparently now the principal is also not going to be welcome back. And it's all because of this middle school student, and his name is Jimmy Hayward. He received a notification that both he and his sisters will not be allowed to attend this school. This is a private school, St. Bonaventure, coming up this fall. And in his campaign speech, you may have seen this because it's trending this morning as well. It's been trending here for the last several days. He said, "My love for America is my motivation for running for Commissioner of Patriotism and School Spirit," he said in his speech. And he's holding a sign that says, "Make SBS," that's St. Bonaventure School. So he's saying, "Make SBS great again." And he's holding the sign. And in his speech, he said, "It's an honor to live in this country." And the principal wouldn't allow him to say it, he said, because he didn't follow her orders to remove the references to patriotism. And he said, "I didn't remove the patriotic part of the speech. That's the most important part. I'm not removing it," he said. And so a video showed him in his speech. And in his speech, he said, sadly, there's a lot of truth in what this young man is saying. "Sadly, some people take citizenship for granted, whether it is disrespecting the people who protect us or eating nachos during the national anthem at a sporting event. I will make Spirit great again. I will make SBS great again," he said. So instead, they did not allow him to address his fellow students, and he had to sit through the assembly, and he says it was humiliating. So the principal now has since been fired, apparently. And you may have seen that story. Again, it's been trending for days. I saw it last Friday, and it's been trending ever since. Other stories that certainly are noteworthy. This is a local story. Sioux Falls police say they wrote over 6,800 speeding citations in 2023. That's about 560 tickets a month. And this year now, they say they're averaging around 700 citations a month. Sergeant Travis Olson said, "If we continue this trend, that will hypothetically, we could be approaching around 8,400 this year. So to the tune of almost 1,600 more speeding citations anticipated this year," he says. Wow. That's pretty incredible. There are, speaking of speeding and being pulled over, there's a story coming out of Minnesota this morning that law enforcement in Minnesota can no longer, if they pull you over, can no longer ask, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Minnesota Chiefs of Police Association had helped negotiate a compromise, but some are on board with this, some are not. A lot of agencies in Minnesota, law enforcement agencies now, have already made the change. But there are officers who are saying it should still be allowed. And the reason that some oppose it is it a woman who, this is Communities United Against Police Brutality, said, we don't want people making spontaneous confessions, and we don't want law enforcement officers to ask people questions except in a formal interrogation setting when they are Mirandized. So they can no longer ask, do you know why I pulled you over? And you already are capable of saying, not answering that question if you don't want to. This is, it's kind of interesting. And they're saying what police officers are doing is they're just fishing. They're fishing. Then who are we protecting? People who are not bright enough to know that police are fishing? I mean, so that's a look this morning at the big stories that were happening on a Monday morning. Thanks so much for letting me join you. Joe Bowman is in the Kellogg.com News Center, and among stories that Joe was following this morning, South Dakota's Attorney General says the Supreme Court's decision on the abortion pill does not impact South Dakota's current abortion law. Joe will have details on that story and more for us coming up here in just a few minutes. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Weeknights 5 to 8. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.
All right, that's our first segment. Is brought to you by Tires Diamonds. See in-store details about how to get rebates from major tire manufacturers. Coming up, we'll run down stories that are trending this morning. That gives you a pretty comprehensive look at, what's going on around the country. Trending stories does. I use freespoke.com.
Comfortable mattresses, custom made to fit your individual needs. And the best part, our prices are lower than any so.
Got a great search engine as well.
Stop in today and feel the comfort for yourself.
I'm just checking my time, where we're at.
After a cancer diagnosis, you take it 1 hour.
Okay, we're doing just fine.
At a time. But you want more adventures, more time, more heroes. As the region's only accredited cancer network, Avera Cancer Institute is your partner in making more a reality. We'll pinpoint the specific treatment that's best for you. You'll have a 24/7 support system to call with questions. Visit
Wait until we get into news here.
Moving health forward.
Hey John, what's so glum?
I just got let go. The company's
Feel free to email me anytime. Greg.belfrage@kelo.com is my email address, and I enjoy hearing from you, so thank you. Even if you don't get a response, I do read my emails. Sometimes I get wrapped up with a number of things that are going on with the radio station, in addition to being on the air every day. I handle the station's programming. I work with our networks. There's, our network programs, there are affidavits and other things that go along with those. Bill Zortman's got vacation coming up later this week, so I'm going to have to put some programming in place for him to cover his show coming up later. So there's always a lot to do. So don't think I ignore your emails. I don't. I appreciate them.
showers and thunderstorms continue this morning in the Sioux Falls area. Partly cloudy this afternoon, though, and warming up our high.
Oh, I need a temp.
Wind at 15 to 30. For tonight, low temperature 71, an increasing southerly
60.
20 to 35. Tomorrow, we're developing showers.
Rain wake you up overnight?
From the Storm Center at Kibble TV.
A lot of thunder. There.
Just hot and severe weather in the forecast.
Okay, I'm going to sort these stories out here, and then I'm going to turn the monitor up so you can hear Fox News.
Folks, strong to severe thunderstorms are moving into the north central plains and the upper Midwest. Heavy rain could cause flash flooding, as well as the potential for hail, damaging winds, and isolated tornadoes.
Fox meteorologist Janice Dean. President Biden meets with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg today.
His visit comes just days after NATO countries moved ahead with a plan to relieve the U.S. of coordinating military aid to Ukraine and letting the military alliance take on that responsibility. That move seen by some insiders as a way to keep aid going if former President Trump gets reelected.
Fox's Jill Nato. America's listening to Fox News.
News brought to you by Sioux Falls Implant and Sedation Dentistry. They fix your teeth while you sleep.
Kello News Time, 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. South Dakota's Attorney General says the Supreme Court's decision on a widely used abortion pill does not impact the state's current abortion law. Last week, the High Court rejected a bid to restrict access to mifepristone. The ruling will allow the pill to be mailed to patients without an in-person doctor visit. It comes 2 years after the court overturned Roe v. Wade. The pilot of a spray plane is recovering after he was forced to crash land in Brookings. Jeffrey Brunson was making another pass on a field when suddenly a flock of ducks flew right in front of him and into the engine, disabling the aircraft. The plane went down in a grass field, turned onto its top. He was taken to a local hospital with unknown injuries. Most of the roof of South Dakota's state capitol building and pier, with the exception of the copper dome, is being replaced this summer and fall. Lee Haugen is the Special Projects Coordinator for the South Dakota Bureau of Human Resources and Administration. She says the current roof is over 45 years old.
The last time it was replaced was 47 years ago in 1977, so the time has come for us to replace it.
The project is expected to be completed in November. It's a big award for a growing program. The Medical Laboratory Science program at South Dakota State University has received a $750,000 award from the Association of Public Health Laboratories to promote the medical laboratory profession in South Dakota. In addition to new equipment and technology, the funds will also be used to improve recruiting and grow programs within the department through increased scholarship support. Lab tests inform approximately 2/3 of all medical decisions made by physicians. And a furniture store in a Sioux Falls suburb may need to have a scratch and dent sale after a car crashed into the building. The crash happened Saturday afternoon at Down Home by DeBoers and T. The building had some structural damage. No word yet on what caused the crash. The store is scheduled to have its grand opening next month. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Weather brought to you by Intech Cleaning and Restoration. If you need it clean, call the Intech team. IntechClean.com.
Scattered showers and thunderstorms around this morning in the Sioux Falls area, turning partly cloudy.
CNN has announced the rules for the first presidential debate. Muted mics and no notes. They will not be able to have notes up on the podium with them. So their microphones will be muted except when a candidate is given time to speak.
Depend on Kello. News Talk 1320 107.9 and Kello.com.
And CNN says that the moderators, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, will use all the tools at their disposal to enforce timing and ensure a civilized discussion. Yeah. Right.
British president plans to sue Apple for more than $6 million, claiming Apple's lying about deleted text messages. Apparently, Mr. Hubby set up meetings with call girls on his iPhone using text messaging. After the encounter, he deleted the text so his wife wouldn't find it. But she did.
Tried to organize these in a way that makes a little bit of sense anyway.
There it stays for at least 30 days. To fully remove the text, you have to go to the deleted text folder and delete it again. And still, it never really is gone. Email, voicemail, and text are forever recorded on some cloud server somewhere. Remember, never ever text or email anything that you don't want to see one day in court.
Takes me a little bit of time on Monday morning. Takes me a little bit of time to get my brain in gear again. And that storm woke me up at around 1:30 this morning. Power went out at my place. Not for very long. The power was out for and then when the power goes out, and I can tell right away because I have a fan that I use every evening to help me sleep. The droning of that fan just really puts me out. So I wake up silent. I can't see my clock, black as pitch. And then I start worrying, I worry about, because I got an electric garage door opener. How am I going to get my car out of the garage? This is how my mind works. You start worrying about those things. So it wasn't out very long. I don't know, 5 minutes maybe. Still raining this morning. And that'll be the story here for the next couple of days at least. Okay, no live ads this week. I want to give you a heads up. I'm going to be taking a little bit of vacation coming up here in a few weeks. I'll be here throughout the rest of the month, but early in July, I'll be off July 4th and 5th, and then I'm taking the entire following week off as well. So just want to bring that to your attention. We'll see if I can tip this down just a bit. Bad framing. There we go. A little better. Still my ugly mug. All right, we're getting close. Again, all these training stories come from freespoke.com. And if you like being, following stories from a variety of different sources, I really recommend freespoke.com. I use it a lot. All right, here we go. $6.39. Cloudy skies, rain, and 60 currently at Kello. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Hey, my thanks to those who are watching the video of the Greg Belfrage Show every morning, the 6 a.m. hour. We're doing a live video stream. You can find it live as it's occurring at Kello.com, or excuse me, at YouTube. Go to YouTube and search the Greg Belfrage Show. I post it later to Kello.com, but I want to thank those who have been watching. It's a very, very humble start. We've got generally there are a couple of dozen people that wind up watching the videos, but we do it each morning. And again, it's live on YouTube right now, and then I will post it later this morning to Kello.com.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
Well, the president warned that the next president might be able to appoint 2 Supreme Court justices. The president made these comments at a Saturday night fundraiser in Los Angeles, and he was talking about why his re-election in November is so important. And the president said the next president is likely to have 2 new Supreme, obviously, they're nominees. Of course they're new. That's the... So the next president likely to have 2 new Supreme Court nominees, 2 more. And then he said he's already appointed 2 that have been very negative in terms of rights of individuals, he said. And then he said the idea that if Trump is reelected, he can appoint 2 more flying flags upside down. That's a reference to Samuel Alito. You know anything about that story, this Alito, it's not Alito who was flying flags upside down, it was Alito's wife. Really kind of a non-issue. So Donald Trump on Friday encouraged his voters to write on restaurant receipts to spread the word of his proposal then to eliminate taxes on tips. So Trump, as you know, turned 78 years old last week. And as part of this, he said he would eliminate taxes on tips for restaurant workers, hospitality workers, and anyone else that gets tips, he said. No tax on tips, okay? It's done. Done. And we need to spread the word so that every time you leave a tip for the next 5 months, you put on the receipt, vote for Trump, because there's no tax on tips, Trump said. Speaking of Trump, Trump was in Michigan, and he was at 180 Church in Detroit, Michigan. And Pastor Lorenzo Sewell is the senior pastor. And he was with Trump as Trump's out campaigning. And he said, President Trump, I'm so humbled that you would be here. President Obama never came to the hood, so to speak. There was a lot of applause then as he said that. Said President Joe Biden went to the big says President Biden went to the big NAACP dinner, but he never came to the hood. So thank you, he said. So Detroit is nearly 80% black, and the black vote will be an important one then for Donald Trump. Wall Street Journal poll in April found 30% of black voters nationwide are planning to probably or definitely vote for Trump over Biden this fall. That's big. Don't see those black voters, generally black males in particular, not voting for Trump, and a number of them this time saying they will. Speaking of President Biden and Donald Trump, CNN has announced the rules for the first presidential debate. That's coming up pretty quickly, June 27th. So we're 10 days away. And there will be no studio audience. The microphones will be muted except when a candidate is given time to speak. And there will be no notes. So no props or pre-written notes will be allowed on the stage. Candidates will be given a pen, a pad of paper, and a bottle of water. And that's all they'll have up there. And so CNN also says it's unlikely that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will qualify for the debate. They said, though it's not impossible in Kennedy's case, it is less likely the candidates other than Biden and Trump will actually meet the requirements. So that debate coming up June 27th. Curious to know as to whether or not you'll be tuning in. Kevin O'Leary has revealed his choice for Donald Trump's running mate. O'Leary's been pretty outspoken about the importance of Donald Trump, and he says that he hopes that Trump will choose Doug Burgum of North Dakota as his running mate. And O'Leary said, if you're an independent and you're thinking that Trump is too crazy, but then you've got Burgum in the package, then you've got some Trump insurance. That's the way I think they're going to sell it, he said. So O'Leary is out, or I should say, not really campaigning, not traditionally, but he's out pushing for Burgum and saying he'd be a great choice. Burgum had a career in technology and consulting before becoming North Dakota governor in 2016. And O'Leary said Burgum may be a dark horse as a pick for Trump's running mate, but he has incredible executional skills because he came from business in the state of North Dakota. He's so steady and so straight with a real track record. So you get the bombastic Trump, and then you get the Burgum Trump insurance. A little yin and a little yang, O'Leary says. Some sports news that are trending this morning. Bryson DeChambeau captured his second U.S. Open title yesterday. He edged Rory McIlroy by one stroke. So winning the U.S. Open, Bryson DeChambeau. Also, the Edmonton Oilers have extended the Stanley Cup Finals. They had an 8-1 rout of the Florida Panthers. And so they blew out the Panthers to avoid a Stanley Cup sweep. And they will stay alive as the Stanley Cup then continues. Also, Sean Diddy Combs has returned his honorary key to the city of New York at the request of the mayor, Eric Adams. So he was awarded the key last September and returned it earlier this month. So the mayor sent a request following the release of a video that shows Combs attacking singer Cassie in the hallway of a Los Angeles hotel. And in the request for the keys return, Mayor Adams wrote, "I strongly condemn these actions and stand in solidarity with all survivors of domestic and gender-based violence." So Combs has returned his honorary key to the city of New York. Former Alabama football star and Kansas City Chiefs defensive lineman Isaiah Buggs was arrested in Tuscaloosa yesterday, according to county jail records. So he was arrested Sunday on charges of second-degree domestic violence, second-degree burglary. He's also being held on 24-hour domestic violence hold. His bond is set at $50,000. The Israeli military has announced a tactical pause of military activity along a route in southern Gaza. They want to allow aid to be distributed there. They stressed there would be no let up in fighting in and around Rafah So the pause began on Saturday and is continuing taking place every day from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. local time so that trucks can move and allow shipments then of aid and so on. Also, 9 people were wounded in Michigan. 9 people wounded, including an 8-year-old boy who was left in critical condition. There was a shooting, and police say it appears to be a random act. So the suspect, according to police, died by suicide after he was tracked to a home by law enforcement. So at least 2 of the victims were children, including the 8-year-old boy. According to local authorities, they held a news conference late Saturday night. This is a pretty wild story. This was just found at Mount Vernon, the home, this is George Washington's home, Mount Vernon. And archaeologists then, who've been excavating Mount Vernon, made a discovery of 35 glass bottles filled with cherries and berries. So the bottles were found in 5 storage pits in the mansion's cellar. 29 of them were intact and contained perfectly preserved cherries and berries, according to a news release from Mount Vernon last week. So these bottles, now keep in mind, these are from the 18th century. And this is part of the $40 million revitalization project that was launched last year at Mount Vernon. So the bottles were extracted from the pits and then refrigerated and are expected to undergo scientific analysis. And there are photos of these, and they said the bottles were composed of materials and foodstuffs that are likely 250 years old. Pretty wild. Gordon Ramsay says he's lucky to be here following a bicycling accident. He was involved in a bad one on Saturday, and he said that in an Instagram post Saturday, actually the accident had taken place last week. He posted about it Saturday, and he said the incident really shook me. He had been admitted to the hospital for care, and he said, honestly, I'm lucky to be here. He said, I'm in pain. It's been a brutal week, he said. And he lifts up his chef's jacket then, and you can see his ribs are very heavily bruised. And he said, I'm sort of getting through it, but I cannot tell you the importance of wearing a helmet. He said he didn't break any bones, suffer any major injuries, but he was a bit bruised up, looking like a purple potato, Ramsay said. Glad he's okay. I'm a fan of Gordon Ramsay. His guys cracks me up. Also, a Democrat running for local office in Texas is trending. He was arrested and charged with a felony. He created social media accounts in order to post phony racist attacks against himself, and this was discovered. So he would use these accounts to post racist comments and messages to himself, and then he would go on as himself and say, look at what's happening, and blaming it then on his opponent. And Republican Commissioner Andy Myers had hired a private investigator to find out what was going on. They couldn't find it, so they came up short. So then he asked the district attorney's office to look into the accounts posting the messages. They issued a subpoena to Facebook and Google and obtained enough data to show, comes up with this guy's address, his phone number, all of that stuff. Those accounts were very much tied to him. Trying to blame it on somebody else. Also, at least 2 bystanders were fatally shot at a Juneteenth celebration in Texas Saturday night. It's one of multiple incidents of gun violence over Father's Day weekend. Also, the Department of Justice announced late last week that they have arrested a Texas man for making threats against an FBI agent who was involved in the investigation of Hunter Biden. So this guy's facing charges for interstate threatening communications and influencing, impeding, or retaliating against a federal official. So he threatened the life of this FBI special agent, threatened his life, and he was part of the team that had investigated Hunter Biden's laptop. And this guy phoned the agent and threatening him, and the agent hung up, but the guy said, apparently, you can run, but you can't blanking hide, he said. Lots of folks who are, I think we see, unfortunately, more and more people who are giving into the dark side. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. Thanks so much for letting me join you. It's great to have you along. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Business is news, and business is good. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9, and Kello.com.
Well, that is it for this morning, my friend. Thanks so much for letting me join you. I really appreciate it. Again, we're based in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. If this is your first time, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Tell your friends, tell your like-minded friends about what we're doing. You will find podcasts of today's show at Kello.com, and also on my social media. So those of you who follow the Greg Belfrage Show on Facebook, I post it there as well. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. So long until tomorrow, and may God bless.